Hello, third year students. So today we are going to start a new poem by Lord Byron, who is considered one of the major poets of the second generation of Romantic poets. The poem is entitled She Walks in Beauty, and actually, this is one of the famous poems by Byron. As we are going to read, we are going to see what are the romantic qualities which distinguish this poem, in what sense it is considered to be a representation of the romantic poetry, especially we are talking about the second generation of romantic poets. So what do we need to know first about the poem? Byron wrote this poem in 1815 about Mrs. Wilmot, his cousin Robert Wilmot's wife. It echoes Wordsworth earlier, The Solitary Reaper, in its conceit, the speaker's awe upon seeing a woman walking in her own aura of beauty. So actually some would say that when we read the poem, it reminds us of Wordsworth, The Solitary Reaper. This poem is basically about a reaper, a girl who was working in a field, but she was alone. She was working alone and she was singing alongside her working. So Wordsworth was captured by the beauty and the, let's say, the atmosphere around this young girl. And he wrote this poem. So some say that actually maybe Byron's poem is also similar in this sense, that upon seeing a lady walking, and she has this kind of aura and atmosphere of beauty around her, so that's why he was describing her in this poem. While clearly about specific women, the poem extends to encompass the unobtainable and ideal. We are going as we are going to read, we will see what makes this poem, for example, different from many other poems. When we read literature, we see that we find a lot of examples for poets who would write a poem in order to describe a lady's beauty, in order to describe their admiration to certain lady or love. So why this poem is not like them, or how it is like them, this is what we are going to discover as we read. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. From the very beginning, actually, this expression is really beautiful. She walks in beauty. I mean, besides her appearance or looking, just the act of movement, just the fact that she's walking around makes you admire her, because even her movement is beautiful. There is beauty even in her motion. And this is a very beautiful actually image about this lady, that her beauty is not just, for example, in her face, or in the way she looks, or in whole body, but it also in the way she moves. Like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. And this is actually an interesting comparison, to compare the lady with, to the night. We all know that night is mostly associated with darkness, sometimes fear. So how can you describe someone who's beautiful, and you are describing their beauty to what? To the night. In what aspect beauty could be connected to night? According to him, he's mentioning here that it's not any night, it's cloudless climes. The atmosphere is very quiet and beautiful, peaceful, and of course in such weather the skies look very filled with filled with stars. They are starry skies, and such beauty is also I mean, even if you are looking at a dark sky, even if you are looking at the sky at night, but still there is beauty in that. Even in at night you can see beauty. Night is not necessarily associated with darkness and fear. Sometimes it can show you a glimpse of beauty, especially when it is very quiet, and when you look above, you see the stars. Okay, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. Here, this is interesting also, because you see, There is part of darkness and part of brightness in her looks. When you look at her, she's dressed in black. So when you look at her, you can see what is the most beautiful about darkness and what is the most beautiful about brightness. Both are gathered in her looks. Okay, the poet, notice here, the poet points out how much he is impressed by the lady's grace and beauty. She seems to walk in her beauty that is likened to the dark night in a cloudy free weather and the star-lit sky. In contrast to popular conceptions, this is what I was telling you. Her beauty, sorry, her beauty is not easily described as brilliant or radiant, but it is also dark, like the night. Actually, the usual description of beauty is associated with brightness, but in this case, in the case of this woman, even when you look at the dark aspects in her looks, you can see that it adds to her beauty. Okay, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to go day denies. Because it is so controlled and softened, this beauty easily draws attention but does not overwhelm like the burning sunlight that irritates. Actually, sometimes when if you are walking around in a sunny day, sunny days are usually beautiful days, but if the sun ray is very strong and it's uh, maybe it overwhelms you, it irritates you, then you start to feel that this brightness is annoying. The brightness of the sunny day seems sometimes to be burning and annoying. You don't like it. But the beauty of this lady is not like that. The beauty of this lady has this kind of balance between darkness and between brightness. So when you look at her, you are not irritated, just like you would be if it is a sunny day and you are exposed to the sun rays. Okay? One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace, which waves in every raven tress or softly lightens over her face. Where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. Uh, Another aspect about this lady's beauty, notice here, this is what we call, um, this is a kind of contrast here. One shade the more, one ray the less. If you add anything to this beauty, if you add one shade more or one ray less, even any addition or any reducing of this beauty would make it kind of impaired. What he's trying to say here is that it's very perfect to the point that you don't need to do anything to it, because anything else, whether adding or reducing, would make this balance imperfect. So it is very balanced and it doesn't need anything else. Okay, so the lady's beauty is perfect, that any addition or reducing or of any element would ruin the balance. Indeed, the beauty of Wilmot, this lady, is found largely in its balance of opposites. So it is not always, for example, if you look at something bright and graceful, you would say this is beautiful. Sometimes beauty lies in being able to balance opposites. Okay, so you can imagine this lady, she's wearing black, but if you look at her face is very white and beautiful and bright. So the brightness of her face is contrasted with the darkness of her dress. Not only her dress, even her hair. Notice here when he says raven tress, the color of his hair, of her hair, sorry, it is not, she's not blonde. She's not blonde like what we know usually in English ladies. She's not blonde, she's brunette. And her hair is very dark, but this darkness of her hair had created a special beauty in this lady because it contrasts with the brightness of her face. She's a white lady, and the whiteness of her face is contrasting with the darkness of her hair, but in a very beautiful way. Okay, you see, or softly lightens over her face. And when you look at her face, what do you see? Where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. Actually, when you look at her face, even Looking at the facial expressions of this lady gives you this feeling that from the inside, this beautiful lady um, uh, is having this kind of comfort and peace of mind, and this is reflected on her face. There's nothing that worries her. Maybe there's nothing that makes her, for example, sad or depressed. On the contrary, when you look at her face, you feel that she's living in ease inside. There is an inner peace which is reflected in her face. Okay? The darkness she walks in and her dark hair counterpoise her fair skin and the bright pureness of her soul. In the last stanza, he says, and on that cheek and over that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow. Actually, the expressions she revealed, the smiles, let's say the glow which appears on her face, all these things are also attractive about this lady. It's not about just the physical appearance that attracts the attention of the speaker, it's also something about her inside. So there's inner beauty, there's outer beauty. Both are reflected on this lady's appearance, and both are attracting the attention of the speaker. So the woman seems so pure because she's so simple. She wears her thoughts directly on her face. There's nothing very complex about this lady that you cannot understand. Her facial expressions are very comfortable and simple, and this simpleness is this simplicity is reflected on her outside. So there's nothing hidden about her, there's nothing further to question about. Okay, and she shows no evidence of discrimination, of better from worse. Okay, if she's beautiful like the night, perhaps her mind truly is like a sky without any clouds of trouble or confusion. Maybe this is another thing that makes her similar to the starry night, that just like a clear sky, her mind is also very clear. It seems this lady is not having any confusions or troubles inside her. She doesn't feel sad over anything. Okay, and this is a very unique state for the inner self for any person. And sometimes this is the reason that people look beautiful from the outside, because they are feeling very comfortable, and they have this kind of ease, and no troubles are bothering them. So that's why it reflects on the way they behave from the outside, and it makes them look very beautiful. Okay, but tell of days in goodness spent. She's spending her time and her life in a good way. That's why she's looking that graceful and beautiful. A mind at peace with all below. She doesn't have any troubles even with other people. You see, it doesn't look like that she's a person who likes to make troubles with other people. Even people, when they deal with her, when they react to her, they feel that she's a really good person. A heart whose love is innocent. And this line, I think, is really important, because when we read this poem, when we see all these, we would say exaggerated, somehow they are exaggerated descriptions of the lady, one would assume that maybe Byron had fallen in love with the lady. Maybe he loves her. Maybe there's kind of feelings towards her. But this line actually reveals something else, that this lady, the love that this lady has, or you feel that she has, is a pure love, innocent love. Actually, there is nothing about a real feeling of love that the poet has towards her, because she's the wife of his cousin. Okay, um, by possessing a genial mind and innocent heart, the lady can bring the beauty of both darkness and light out and together without contradiction. Her purity softens the edges of the contrast. What does this mean? In literature, we have something we call juxtaposition. What is juxtaposition? It means that, for example, uh, you bring two images side by side, and by doing this, you are trying to emphasize one of these images over the other. How is this? For example, if you want to show the beauty of something, you bring something, let's say ugly, you place it beside it, so it reveals how beautiful the other thing is. If you want, for example, to show how big something is, you can place something very small beside it. So this contrast, when you place contrastive images side by side, what you are doing is that you are trying to emphasize one aspect over the other. But when it comes to this lady, these contrastive images or these contrastive elements about her beauty, they are not competing with each other. There is no competition between these contrastive aspects in her beauty. On the contrary, they are creating a very unique and beautiful balance. And in this lady, contradictions are reconciled instead of fighting or competing with each other. Okay? And this is what makes this poem unique. How? Uh, it is not just a pure description of physical beauty and then speaking about inner beauty, and that's all, because we can find a lot of poems and themes like this. What makes this poem special is that Byron is not looking on beauty just in this lady. He's trying to reach to, let's say, the ideal of beauty after see contemplating and meditating the beauty of this lady. What he's trying to say is that beauty has power. Part of the power of beauty is in its rarity. You can find a lot of things that are beautiful around you, but there is a unique and rare kind of beauty that is exemplified in this lady. And what is this rare beauty? It is the beauty of the gathering and the combination of contrast without competing. The contrast are gathered in the beauty of this lady in order to make a beautiful balance between them. And, and this is what makes the beauty of this lady unique. It has shown the poet, the speaker, another kind of beauty. It has transcended from just the beauty of the appearance and the physical or the outside appearance or even the inner beauty to a higher concept of beauty. Okay, there is a higher concept of beauty that the poet was able to realize and to conclude just by looking at this lady. Okay, the perfection in beauty lies in the idea of harmony between contrast and not only on the outer qualities as light and grace. Okay, so if you look at a beautiful flower, the beauty of the color, maybe the smell of this flower makes you admire it, and you would love to enjoy this beauty. But not all the time the beauty is about beautiful color or a beautiful smell. Sometimes there are beauty that you find around that comes out of awe, for example. You know this word AWE, awe. تمام، بالعربي احنا نسميها الخشية، الرهبة. There are things that create inside you this kind of feeling, awe. And this awe is also beautiful and it's connected to beauty. Okay? So the poem as a whole shows a difference between poetry that traditionally invokes natural forces to praise human beauty. You notice in the first and in the second stanza, Byron was using elements from nature in order to enhance and to reinforce the beauty of this lady, in order to show how beautiful she is. But in the second one, in the third stanza, he finds an echo of the ultimate aesthetic experience of the transcendent in the presence of such beauty. Sometimes these experiences of looking at beautiful thing, it gives you another philosophical or metaphysical experience. It transcends your appreciation and understanding of beauty. Okay, it leads you to reach to certain higher truths about beauty and about nature. Okay, so not all the time when you are looking at beautiful things, not all of the time what you see is just the beauty in this moment. No, sometimes what you look at gives you a hint about higher truth about beauty. It makes you able to reach to the ideal of beauty. And here I think Byron, what he's trying to say is that it is very rare in life that you could find a beauty that is similar to the beauty of this lady. Okay, it is very rare in life to find anyone or anything that, upon looking at it or upon appreciating its qualities, you are able to reach to higher truth about life. You see, sometimes you يعني يعني نقول لك الإنسان أحيانا يشوف الأشياء الجميلة، ممكن بلحظتها خلاص أنا شفت هذا الشيء الحلو، قدرت الجمال، استمتعت به، وانتهى الأمر. ولكن بعض الأحيان، حسب ما هنا بايرن يحاول يوضح، بعض الأحيان أنه بعض الأشياء الجميلة أنا من أشوفها، هاي الأشياء الجميلة تعلمني، تنطيني فهم معين للحياة، تساعدني أوصل لحقيقة الحياة، أو أشياء تساعد الإنسان بالحياة. Okay, so it is rarely that you find something that not only evokes in you a feeling of enjoyment or beauty or peace, no, it even enables you to reach to certain truth about life. And this is what the beauty of this lady has led the poet to. It has shown him another understanding of beauty. This understanding is based on what? Is based on the appreciation of contrast, the balance between contrast. Sometimes beauty lies in understanding and being able to see the beauty in different and very contradictory things. Okay, so this is what I think the poem is about, and this is what makes actually this poem so different from many other poems that speak about beautiful ladies and appreciate their beauties and describe their appearances, that we find a lot in literature actually. And this is actually what makes this poem a very fine example of romantic poetry. I think here I reached to an end, and I hope that this was helpful. See you in other videos very soon. Thank you.